كان يا مكان في قديم الزمان, long time ago, in a city called Kairawan, there lived a little girl called Fatima. And Fatima had one sister older than her by 2 years. Fatima's father was a merchant. He was thriving in his business, and they were just the two sisters. Fatima was unlike many other little girls. Unlike her sister Mariam, who loved playing with dolls and helping her mother with anything she was doing, Fatima was a ball of curiosity, endless curiosity. Her questions would start in the morning and only end when the day ended. And she would ask why the grass is green, why there's so many stars in the sky, why the moon goes through so many shapes, all kinds of questions. And sometimes this would give her mother a headache. And sometimes she would also be worried about Fatima. One time she couldn't find Fatima, so she went to the terrace roof and saw her with the family cat about to drop her from the roof. And she screamed, "Fatima, what are you doing?" And Fatma said, "Oh, I've always heard that cats land on their paws, so I just wanted to see if our cat would land on her paws." And Fatma's mom took the cat away and said, "Fatma, it's good to know these things, but our roof is really high and you could have hurt the cat." And that night, when her husband came home, Fatma's mother said, "I don't know what to do with your daughter. She is so curious that sometimes I worry she might hurt someone." So the father told the mother, "Don't worry, she is just a curious little girl. I can assure you she will never hurt anyone. And I can also assure you one day she will make all of us proud." So when Fatima was around 7 years old, there was a sickness passing through the city of Kairouan. So this is in Tunisia, and her mother got really sick. And in fact, she was so sick that for weeks she was in bed and she couldn't even get herself up. And unfortunately, after a while, she passed away. Both her sister Mariam and her were devastated. They couldn't imagine life without their loving mother. And Fatma's father was again so devastated by this loss. Fatima stayed on the rooftop staring at the stars and wondering if it was because of her that her mother left. And she would ask everyone, "Where is her mother?" And the family cat would be in her lap, purring her to comfort. When this happened for a long time, Fatma's father decided to take her to the marketplace to distract her every day. So she would accompany him to work. And when she started going to the marketplace, she was amazed by what she saw. The different spice racks with colorful spices, the silks everywhere, and she loved the rugs that were hanging in stores. She would ask the rug makers, "What are these designs? Where are they from? How do you make them?" All kinds of questions, and they all welcomed her. They used to call her Fatuma lovingly. And in fact, some of them would even give her like samples to try out, like fruits or whoever the vendor was. She was also learning how prices are haggled. So she would ask customers why they're paying so much, or the vendors and merchants what's happening. In fact, after a while, her questions got so many and so deep that nobody could really answer her questions. So her father decided to ask the traders and the merchants and all the people who were passing through Kairawan if they could spend 1 or 2 days at his place to answer her curious questions. And that's what started happening. And she would ask all kinds of things about language, about poetry, about astronomy, how you can tell from the stars where to head, all kinds of things. And she would be very disappointed when these people would have to move because, again, nobody stayed around for too long. Some people in the community started asking Fatima's father, "Why don't you get married again?" And he would say, "No, no, 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 never. I don't want anyone in my daughter's life who could potentially not love them like my wife and I did." And these two, and some of them would ask, "Don't you want a son? You only have daughters." And he would say, "No, I have everything I want in my daughters. They are amazing. I've spared no expense in upbringing them. They have the best education." So were finally settling for Fatima and Mariam after they had lost their mother for 1 or 2 years. They were well settled into a routine now. But as as it happens in many towns, there were two dynasties at war with each other. And because of their political intrigues, they ended up causing civil war in the city of Kairouan. So one night, Fatma's father came to the room and woke up the girls. They were still rubbing their eyes, but smoke was filling the room, filling the house. And the father said, "Girls, we have to leave now. It's not safe anymore for us to stay in Kairouan. We must leave. Look, the marketplace is already on fire, and the people are coming towards our side of the city." So, with that, they grabbed whatever they could, the basic necessities, and left. But Fatma couldn't find her cat. And she looked everywhere, but the father pleaded with her, "Fatma, if we don't go now, it'll be too late." And he said, "Fatma, without you, Mariam and I are not safe because you are the one who knows how to navigate using the stars." So, with that, Fatma became their guide on their journey. For months, and perhaps even a year, they were on this rough journey traversing the Sahara Desert. Their feet were blistered. They were almost near starvation because of the very difficult journey until they reached the city of Fez in Morocco. And that's where the father said, "We've almost come to the end of the continent. We have to now make this our home. We have to start from scratch." So, with that, Fatima took off her gold necklace that was a memory of her mother's and handed it to her father, saying, "My father, my dear father, please use this to buy a few things that we can sell in order to start making a living here." And with tears in his eyes, wiping his tears, Fatma's father did exactly that. He took that gold and changed it for some gold coins, and one item at one item at a time, he started selling things, peddling, until they could comfortably find some refuge. Mariam, being the little mother that she had always been, started taking care of their other needs, like making food for them and taking care of the little shelter that they had found and they called home. Years passed, and Fatma's dream of learning was wiped out. She had no time. She was in survival mode. In fact, whatever little they made now was spent on the refugees that were trickling from everywhere to this city because it was away from the places where there was more violence. It was a safe location, so people were pouring in from the north, from the east, from the south. And years passed by. Fatma's father became a big, wealthy merchant businessman again. He was, in fact, wealthier than the time they had been in Kairouan. And they continued supporting others during these years. And now it was time for Fatima to once again begin learning. Her love of learning. And she started finding herself teachers. But again, just like the city of Kairouan, Fez had the same problem. People were just there for a couple of weeks or a couple of days and they would move on. Scholars and traders. So Fatma's frustration was growing. Anytime she would be working through uh, poetry or prose, any kind of works, she would have to give that up, especially philosophy. She was just in the middle of something and then she would have to move on. And as Fatima had grown into a wonderful, intelligent, beautiful young woman, Fatima's father also wanted her to settle down. And she said, on one condition: if you find someone who's kind, who will allow me to learn all the time, because that's my first love, and who will, let me come and visit you and Mariam whenever I want. And a young merchant man married Fatima. She was very happy. Things were good. She was learning. Finally, she found Fez to be a city where she could build her life together with this young man. But a plague was going through the city of Fez, and it took away her young love from her. Fatima was devastated, and she went to her father's house. And within a couple of weeks, her father also passed away. Fatma couldn't believe the loss that she was feeling. This was the man that she loved the most in her life. And she was so devastated that for weeks nobody saw her. She locked herself in her room and wouldn't come out. And one day, when Mariam couldn't take it anymore, she came to Fatima and shook her up and said, Fatima, you are all I have now. Please, don't do this to me. That night, Fatima had a dream. Her father came to her in a vision and said, Fatima, remember, I would always tell you, you will do something to make everybody proud. Don't forget who you are. You have a life in front of you. And her mother came to her dream and said, Fatima, don't forget your roots. Don't forget the people of Kairawan. So, with that, the next morning, Fatima jumped out of bed and looked for Mariam and said, Mariam, I want to do something. I had this dream. And Mariam said, Look, I've been waiting for you to do something. I've been waiting for you to be a sister to me. You've been lost all these weeks. It was so hard for me. I was thinking something bad might happen to you and I'd be all alone. And then Mariam said to her, our father left us a lot of money, and your husband left you a lot of money. And Mariam said to her, on one side of the Fez River, she had already started building a mosque, which would not only be a place for spiritual refuge for people, but would also accommodate the refugees that are still pouring into the city. And it would also be a place where they can have water, fresh water from the fountain, and they can have access to amenities. And Fatma said, You've given me an idea. I'm not only going to start a mosque, I'm actually going to start a place of learning where people can flock from all over, and this will be free. And this will be where people can learn about astronomy and philosophy and mathematics and languages. And she kept talking. She was so excited. And also, I want scholars to be there, not for one day, one week, but permanently. And they'll get paid to teach these students who are like me, craving for knowledge. So, with that, it was the first day of Ramadan, and she was fasting, and she put the first rock, foundation rock, for the university that she was building. It took years, and Fatma was meticulous in her care for this place. She made sure all the artisans did work in front of her. In fact, she was giving them double the going rate because she didn't want to take advantage of anyone's poverty. In fact, she bought land near her so all the materials could be drawn from that, because she didn't want to use material that was coming from anything that had any oppressive practice involved in it. And she also made sure that people didn't have to go far to get water. So she had a water dug, like a well dug for the people to use, for the builders to use. It took 18 years for her mission to be completed. And Fatima supervised this the whole time. From each brick that was laid, each tile that was placed, each door that was built. Now, if you were to walk into Fez city today and you walked to the old city, old town, you would see the University of Qayrawayin, sorry, my Qayrawayin, which means the people of Qayrawan, her hometown. So she named this place after her people in Qayrawan. And not only that, if you had special permission to walk into the oldest library in the world, you would see the diplomas of Mariam and Fatima on one of the walls. And this is the story of Fatima AlFihri.